The way I see it, New Zealanders pride themselves on being resilient. But we all know that's not always the case, and anyone can go through tough times. In many ways, though, it's the struggles we go through that actually shape us as people. I'm Scotty Stevenson, and I'm about to meet some incredible Kiwis to have some meaningful, revealing, inspiring, and hopefully helpful conversations about their own day-to-day challenges and what it's like to come through the other side of mentally tough times and get back on the up.
Hello. There she is. Hello, Hayley.
Welcome to The Upside, brought to you by AIA Vitality.
Hayley Sproull.
Scotty, how are you?
So good to see you.
Yeah, really good to be here.
And we're going to talk about a lot today.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and you're okay with that
Yeah,
because you love talking
I love talking.
and you're good at it.
I am, eh?
Yeah.
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 Do you know, some people say to me, like, I don't know how you do it. Like, I don't know how you, especially with radio, right? You just talk all morning. And I'm like, I don't know. I've just always talked.
Yeah.
And now someone just put a microphone in front
And pay you for it.
and give me money.
How good.
Yeah, it's literally a dream.
It is a dream. I tell you what's not a dream though, and I'm making a huge assumption here as
Okay.
a man, but you battle with PCOS.
I do have PCOS, yeah.
And I wonder if you don't mind telling us about PCOS, where you're at with it,
Yeah.
and a little bit about the story leading up to diagnosis.
Polycystic ovarian syndrome is, you have to get diagnosed, you have to have like two of three things.
Right.
And that's how they diagnose us. Now, cysts on the ovaries, polycystic ovaries, is only one of them, and you don't actually have to have that to have polycystic ovaries. So that's one of them, which I've got. Anti-androgynous features like hairiness, bad skin, weight gain, that kind of stuff. No, weight's the third one. This is all like your appearance stuff, like moustache predominantly, which was my dead giveaway. And then you if you've got two of the three, you get diagnosed with it. And basically, it's like your ovaries don't like produce too much testosterone, and that converts into all sorts of like terrible things. And I've got all of it.
There's so much going on in any teenager's life.
Oh, I know.
In a teenage girl's life or a pubescent girl's life. To be dealing with all of this as well, I guarantee there were some pretty tough days, especially when neither you nor your mum really knew what was going on with your body.
Yeah. Do you know when I was like, you sort of thought it was going to regulate itself after a while, but when I was 16, 17 and had a long-term boyfriend and my mum only could assume what we were up to, I would say every month my mum would make me take a pregnancy test because we just couldn't figure out why this period wasn't there. And in her head, she's like, wow, well, she's knocked up. That was how I ended up telling my mum that I had become sexually active. But yeah, it was a lot to sort of get your head around. And then like, I'm in such a great place with it now. I'm 34 years old and I've turned it into like a bit of a thing that I am known for talking about. But at the time, like incredibly embarrassing. Like when you're growing up and it's all about like, what do I look like? And you start dating and people start to see your body and you're dealing with like hairiness and like weight gain and bad skin. It's like, was mortifying.
News like that, when you're 20 and you've got your whole life ahead of you and you're coming to terms with the next phase of your existence, post-high school, thinking about what that's going to look like. To be given a diagnosis like that, especially around the fertility side of that diagnosis, how much does that hit you for a loop in that moment directly after knowing, okay, this is what I have?
I think it was very confusing because, you know, with PCOS, it's not a guarantee that you won't have children. In fact, it's not that at all. Like, you're just going to have to maybe work a bit harder. But I wasn't told any of that information for many, many years after my diagnosis. So I was really confronted with it. And the second bit of advice around that immediately after was, if you are keen to be a mum, do it soon. Like, don't let it get older, because the older you get, the more problems you're already going to have, and you already have a myriad of things in your way. And I actually, growing up, sort of never thought I wanted to be a mum. But then you get this pressure at 20 to be like, oh my God, I actually don't even know if that's something that I want to do, let alone something that I'm going to have to try to do within the next 3 years. And I think it added like this huge cloud of like, yeah, I was just lost basically, and feeling like, oh, maybe I should just push for that because I don't want to get to 30, 35, 34 and, you know, have missed the chance. I'm 34 now and I'm happily childhood free. I'm happily child free. I had a lovely childhood. But, you know, that pressure was real.
I wonder about your sense of humour, which you are renowned for, which you trade on, which you've made a career out of.
Yeah.
I wonder how much what you went through, the symptoms you had, the physical manifestation of those symptoms, I wonder how much of that informed your ability to make people laugh. Was comedy a shield for you to get through?
Yeah, the humour like allowed me to strip off a lot of the shame of it.
Yeah.
It kind of lightened the load. And then it went on to like open conversation with people. And then a problem shared is like, you know, so much easier than just kind of feeling ashamed and embarrassed on your own about this thing that actually they think 10%, but they're like, no, it's more like 20% of women have something like this. And whether or not you have a hormonal disorder, you probably have a mustache. I meet most women, I'm like, you have a mustache. It's not just PCOS women. It's like we're all embarrassed in our bathrooms with a locked door, bleaching, plucking, waxing, shaving ourselves and pretending like we don't. So when I used humour to start talking about it, all these women, it was like peeping out of the bushes like, ah, me too. And like suddenly, you know, it just feels like lighter and way more normal.
Anxiety is a part of your life.
It is.
Weirdly, it's a part of a lot of people's lives who have public jobs, because
same.
as you wake up in the morning and you wonder what they will say.
Yeah.
But, you know, anxiety is tough. And when you're dealing with it and when it's acute, that manifests itself in some pretty horrific ways for people who suffer from it. I want you to talk about your anxiety with me if you can.
I will.
And with us. And what does anxious look like for Hayley Sproull?
Wow. Anxious looks like chipped teeth, tight jaw, shaking, blacking out, heavy breathing. It's truly awful. Do you know, even describing the feelings, I get this like feeling up my arm, and I like that could easily turn into a panic attack. It's such a strange, awful thing. And I didn't always have it. Like, and I genuinely thought I would be free from it. And then I moved cities from Wellington to Auckland, and this just like grew in me. And I would wake up and everything was going really well. I got this job. I was like writing for John and Ben, my first TV gig. I was like, this is going to be great. Made a great move. But I'd wake up in the morning and go to bed with a feeling of dread. And I was like, what am I dreading? I like couldn't put my finger on it, what that was. And it just never went away. But I didn't want to talk to the doctor about it yet, because I was like, I think I'm just adjusting to a new life. And then I had this one day where I'd sent an email to my agent about something, and he emailed back a response that I wasn't expecting. I don't know if it was like, that's not happening, or the money's less, or something like that. And I remember just being like, oh, and literally like not even mentally, but physically, my vision just went like, ooh, like this, went black. And I was like, oh my God, I'm getting like pins and needles up my arm. And I had this like volcanic panic attack on the floor, where I was like crying, couldn't breathe, and I was shaking and I didn't know what to do, and no one was in the house. And I was like, oh, I think that might be a panic attack. And it sure was. And then from that moment, like that anxiety and regular panic attacks just never left. And it was very...
Walked in the door and stayed.
Walked in the door and stayed.
Terrible guest.
And then sometimes it would be connected to an event. And I could go, oh, that's caused that. And sometimes you'd just be having a lovely time. I remember being on the set of Bake Off, and I was getting my hair and makeup done, and suddenly like the touching of my hair and the hairdryer in my ear was like far out, and I was like, oh, here we go. And I was like, what for? Like,
Yeah.
I'm having a nice day, I'm on a great job, I'm getting paid, I'm with my friends. And I remember being like, I've just got to go for a little walk, and like went into the bush because I was like so embarrassed to have this panic attack.
Once you've experienced one, you realise it can come on at any time.
I know.
Especially as you've described your experience, which is, I'm having a great day. Oh, here's a panic attack. So
I've learnt what mine is now.
you have?
Yeah. I got medicated basically to keep the rumbling day-to-day anxiety at bay.
Was that hard for you? Was that hard to accept that you needed that assistance?
Yeah. Giving in and being like, I could do with some assistance with the dread was a little scary. Luckily, I had a really great doctor who knew me really well. And went in there and she was like, how can I help you? And I just burst into tears and just told her everything. And then they do a big check to make sure that you're not, thinking of doing something terrible. And then I went on it and that really helped. But she sent me to breathing school, and I went there and I lay on this table and they connect this thing to your finger and it maps your breathing. And the woman was just like, no wonder, you're breathing like a cat, like high, shallow, fast.
Yeah.
And I'm basically telling my body, and I've literally been doing it this whole time,
That you're suffocating.
that you're in fight or flight. And it's panicking because it thinks we're in danger. So I had to like relearn how to breathe, and I still do it really badly.
I think the cynicism's dying away.
Yeah.
Yeah, where once there was I'm not going to go and see that health professional because I
totally.
don't buy it. I don't want to go and check up on that because that's all rubbish.
Yeah.
Being able to go out there and try things
Yeah.
with an open mind.
Yeah.
I guarantee if someone said to 25-year-old Hayley Sproull, hey, breathing school, that's what you need, you
Yeah.
would have laughed at them.
Absolutely.
And said, I'm breathing just fine, thank you.
I'm fine. And also I'm a very like high functioning anxious person. It's, for me, anxiety translates to sometimes quite a positive energy.
Yeah.
Like when I'm performing comedy, I've got so much energy to give, and anxiety.
Because you've been stressed and anxious all day.
Yeah, totally. I'm like this little like pot. And so when people say to you, breathe, go to yoga, go for a walk, I'm just like, that is so boring to me. I'd rather be working on mega high cortisol levels of stress and entertaining people and taking on 9 more jobs and just like, burning out than do 20 minutes of breathing on a table. Do you know what? Like one of the big things, and I honestly never thought I'd be this person. And go to the gym. I never thought it, because through my early 20s, up until probably like turning 30, I would go to the gym because I hated my body, I hated myself, I wanted to be skinny, I wanted to be thinner, I wanted to eat less, all that. Eat next to nothing, go to the gym so that you look a certain way. It was a punishment. Then through working with like a personal trainer and with my doctor and stuff, learning that being strong and lifting heavy things is not only really good for my polycystic ovaries, it is so good for my brain, it is so good for my head. It's a really like kind thing to do to yourself, and not like self-flagellation. It's like a really, really nice thing that I do for myself.
And you can make amazing grunting noises while you're doing it.
I know.
And no one will turn a blind, and no one will look
They're
at
just
you.
like,
They're
yeah, girl. Yeah.
Yeah, you lift that. You
yeah,
shift
she
that
is
tin.
strong. Yeah.
Is the feeling of becoming stronger, forget the image for a second, but the feeling of becoming stronger, is that a really powerful thing for you?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because as well, like, I've got all this extra testosterone. I'm born to be strong. I'm not born to be a slight wafer, that I was raised in the 90s, like thin was in. And I'm like, man, I've got to use this extra testosterone for good. And if that's like stacking on muscle and lifting heavy things and being grunty, I'm like, that's actually really fun and really empowering.
one of those places that you have to go to in your line of work is social media.
Yeah.
And you put content out into the world, and what comes back is sometimes really nice, but more often than not, it is toxic garbage.
Yeah.
How have you learnt to deal with that? Because I am sure you, like anyone else who does what you do, has been exposed to some pretty terrible stuff.
Yeah. I didn't really know much about how bad it was going to be. And I started working, my first job on TV was Jono and Ben, and then it was Bake Off, and it was pretty like soft, you know, you're ugly or you think you're so funny. They love saying that to women. Oh, you think you're so funny. I'm like, yeah, I'm genuinely
you're
very funny.
Yeah.
And then I got a crash course in how social media in this country works, and I'm sure overseas. The second time I started doing 7 days, and the second time I ever did it, I made a questionable joke centered around a politician, and it was very long-winded. And on the night, you know, the live audience was like, "Ha!" You know, one of those laughs. But it was, you moved on with the rest of the show, and then it made it to air, and I looked on social media because it was the first time that people would like tweet about me, and I would get excited, you know, I'm becoming famous, and I would go on Twitter and search my name and see what people had said. And that next day after that episode, it was just like thousands and thousands of horrific tweets about me and direct messages and your mother should have aborted you and I hope you die, I hope you kill yourself. Just horrific, just horrendous. I screenshotted. I don't know why I did it. And I think I thought in the future I'll be grateful that I screenshotted them all. Not all, but the worst of them. And it was awful. I was like I was just sitting at home like, oh my God, like they hate me and I've really stuffed up here and I'll never recover from this.
That's one of the interesting, I guess, components of social media. The things that are said are things that in your real life, how many times, Hayley, in all honesty, has someone actually come up to you in public and said something you didn't like?
I reckon maybe like one or two dudes in a pub being like, I don't think you're funny.
That's
once or twice.
And that's genuinely a real Kiwi thing to say as well.
And you're like, all good, my dude.
Thanks, mate. Do you want a beer? Oh,
yeah, like
definitely.
totally fine.
Yeah, and now can we hang out for 2 hours with you? And talk
and then at the end of the night, you're not that bad. And you're like, all good.
I just, that to me is the great thing, is the connection, the real genuine connection, face to face.
Yeah.
Still trumps any of that.
Yeah, for sure.
And you learn that, don't you?
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to. And you have to learn, and it took years, literally years. People could say anything about me now, I reckon I'd be all right. I think if they I don't know, really got into the art of something I created and why that was bad, I'd be like, ouch. But they can talk about the way I look, the way I sound, how funny I am, all that kind of stuff. And it would not pierce the surface.
Yeah.
But it does. It's taken years, and it's taken a lot of support around to be like, don't read it. Why are you looking? Why are you hunting for people that hate you? And you could read I started working on radio, and you're new, and people message into shows, and they go, she's great, loving Hayley. Oh, love her. She's brilliant. She's so funny. This. And you get all these messages of support. You'll get one message where you go like, oh my God, can't stand her.
That's the one you remember
and
for the rest of the day.
It's like, I'm terrible.
That's the one you remember.
Yeah. So I'm still susceptible to being hurt by stuff.
Of course you are.
We're human.
Of course you are.
We want to be liked.
Yeah. You're fabulous at what you do. And I know you love it. And it's amazing to listen to you talk about all of this and everything you've been through. And you're just still more determined than ever to make this your life, to be this person, to be Hayley Sproull. The good, the bad, the not so good, the tough days, the panic attacks, the anxiety, the hate mail. Have you ever given yourself that pat on the back and said, you know what, I'm a pretty special human. I've done well here?
I would say only within the last couple of years. I've stripped away that thing that I think we're all born with as Kiwis, that thing of going like, no, shut up. No, I'm literally garbage. I've really stopped doing that. And I can find moments to go you. You've taken lots of pivots. I went to drama school to get into the Royal Shakespeare Company, and now I work in TV, comedy and radio.
Yeah, but look, Bake Off, Macbeth, it's two sides of this. Mick Bake Off, exactly.
The great Mick Bake Off. But yeah, no, I definitely, I feel proud of it all, and the direct connection I get to make with particularly women around New Zealand definitely makes me feel very warm and very, grateful to be given the platform, and as much joy as I'm getting from it, I'm like, I'm also giving a lot of joy to people, and that makes me really feel value in what we do. Yeah,
exactly. And very pink too.
Very pink. It is hard to be grumpy when you've got pink hair. And if I've lasered myself head to toe, but if I had a mustache, I would dye that pink. I'd do that pink.
Yeah. I know you would. Yeah. To be honest, that is just something you would do.
I absolutely would.
Hey, can I finish by asking you something?
Yes.
If you're imagining 12-year-old Hayley out there right now, or any other girl, or any other young kid, struggling with their image, with something that hasn't quite gone right in their life, with a sense of shame about their appearance, what would your message to them be?
The way you look is the least interesting thing about you.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fun.
It has been fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hope so.
I've enjoyed it.
I'm glad. Thanks for being on the upside with us.
Thank you, Scotty.
Oh, no worries.
I appreciate it.
If anything in this program has raised concerns for you or someone you know, please contact Lifeline on 0800 54 3354 or free text HELP on 4357.
The Upside, brought to you by AIA Vitality. Find out more at aiavitality.co.nz.